Oh, I see it, I see it. 5:15, do you see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
walk around Duncan.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right. We'll get started. 5:15, welcome everybody to our very special meeting here to, kind of out of our normal. This is our special meeting to talk about the TLBD maintenance program here. Okay, let's start with roll call.
Committee Member Terry Vabona.
Here.
Committee Member Ellen Paul.
Here.
Committee Member Dennis Jones.
Here.
Committee Member Cindy Markey.
Here.
And Committee Member Rick Ziska.
Here.
We're all here.
Okay, great. We'll start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, before we get into the regular agenda, can we have some new members on our board, I see, and I'd like to take a moment if they can just introduce themselves to
Yeah.
the rest of us. So why don't we start with Rick?
Rick Ziska. Any little background you were looking for? I'm the owner of Wildscape Designs. We specialize in native and edible gardens.
Well, welcome, Rick.
Thank you.
And Cynthia?
I'm Cindy Markey. I'm married to the president of Tuscaloosa
Oh,
Homeowners Association, and we've lived in this area for 30-some years.
Wow.
I taught at Oviedo High School for 25 years. I now line dance.
Well, welcome, Cindy. We appreciate that. Okay, so we'll go into the next meeting. The next meeting item on the agenda is, I see it's number 500, and that is to elect a chairperson for our fiscal year 2026. We'll open the floor for,
I nominate Terry Babina.
Second.
I'll accept.
You said you accept, correct?
Yes, I will accept.
Okay. Sorry, I just got a note. Is there any other nominations? Is there any objections to the nomination? Seeing none, do you just want to do everybody in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I look forward to another year. Okay, we'll go on to item 501. We elect a vice chair for 2026 here. Any nominations? No nominations? I'll nominate Dennis if he's up to the task.
I would consider the opportunity, but honestly, as I mentioned, I'm going to be moving out of the state probably by the end of the year. And I don't know if it would be in the best interest of the council to do that, or the committee. I would do it in an interim basis if that was acceptable, but I don't know if anybody would, I don't know if they would approve that.
It's one of those things
Yeah.
that you can be vice chairperson until
Yeah.
you're not here, and then we can
And
just,
then we'll elect someone else.
Be glad to do it as long as I can.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, beautiful.
Second.
Any other nominations? Any opposed of the nomination? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, and then let's move on to item number 502. This is our TLBD enhancement projects. Oops, go ahead, sorry.
have to open public
Oh,
Public
yes, I
input.
do. I did skip over public input. I always seem to do that, don't I? Okay, do we have any public input for opening? I think I have a blue form here, and this is Kurt, president of the Tuscaloosa Homeowners Association.
Kurt Markey, 1820 Seneca Boulevard, Winter Springs. And I am president of the Tuscaloosa Homeowner Association. And I know this is a planning session for 5 years, is it? So it's Two things. One is deals with that and one doesn't. I got an email the other day from a resident here in Tuscaloosa. It says, a couple of months ago, several trees were removed from around the pond near the fire station on Northern Way and Cheetah Trail. The stumps are still there. I contacted the arborist at the city of Winter Springs, and I was told the homeowners association removed the trees, and they're responsible for the stumps. Was the work done by the homeowner association or some other neighborhood association, and what are their plans to remove the stumps? What I'm asking in one way is, I'm sort of familiar with the tasks that this committee or this board district is part of. It's the medians, right? It's the monuments. It's the fountains.
Yes.
And
The lighting.
what else? The lights?
Good lights.
Lighting.
Lights. Not the tree stumps.
Rick.
Is
Not
that
north-
part of the city
Not Northern Way.
on Northern Way?
Oh, no.
It's part of the city, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah,
believe
Kevin
it's
will
on.
give us that.
Kevin Maddox, Landscape and Arbor Manager for the City of Winter Springs. Good evening. It's part of the city responsibility, however, it's not part of the assessment.
Yeah, okay, so, but you just do that, right? I mean,
That's part of my job,
yeah,
correct.
yeah, okay. That helps me
Outside of the
because,
assessment, I'm sorry.
because I get questions, you know, and a lot of people say, well, homeowners should do this or whatever. They don't understand what we do exactly either. The other thing is, I was here at that meeting on September 9th, the 3.5-hour meeting, when we were trying to vote the assessment back up after 26 years. It was a very difficult, terrible meeting that went on and on and on because nobody on the commission, not your commission, but in the city commission, was willing to make a decision, except really one commission member kept pushing, trying to work to try and solve the problem, and that was Cade. What happened was everybody got a letter without any forewarning that suddenly they're going to get raised taxes or whatever, that it's going to jump to such and such. And there was no explanation early on that this was voted in 26 years ago, this district and things like this, and that eventually there might have to be a change, and their letter that was going out and calming everybody ahead of time and saying, this is why, and everything like this. But suddenly they got a letter, including my neighbor, who's very supportive of this, and he sort of just went off the rail a little bit. And I said, just wait, just relax a minute. This is what it's about. We're going to have to do this now because of what the vote that was made that time, 4 more times a vote to try and up it 25% of time for it. We would be very happy in the Tuscaloosa Today magazine a month and a half ahead of time to write an article explaining the vote, why it's coming up again, and what's going on, and calming everybody so that we don't go through another huge battle like that again and again. So just to let you know that it would be really good for the information to get out early so people would really know this is keeping our community as a premier place to live. The only other thing that I commented is I saw about 6 dead trees along Northern Way from Winter Springs before you get to Michigan. And you know about that, I guess. And I'm not sure if they're dead or just really, really dormant. But is that something that you guys look at?
So, as of right now, I'm currently putting together tree inventory. So they are noted, and if they're hazardous, we're getting them scheduled for removal.
Yeah, they're not hazardous at
Yeah.
this point, yeah.
But there is a scale that we have, 5 being the worst, 1 being the best. 5s are getting removed immediately, and then we reassess any of the lower trees.
You're planting some of your own trees too, aren't you now?
I'm sorry.
You're starting some of your own trees.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
all right. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public input? Okay, then we'll roll right into our 5:02, our landscape special meeting. I think everybody got there was a package posted on the website and also emailed to board members, and hopefully y'all had a chance to take a look at that. And I think there were some instructions in there as well.
Yes, there were. I'm over here to your left.
Good to see you.
Brian Dunnigan, Director of Administrative Services and Operations. So for the benefit of the board and anyone who in attendance, as well as anyone that may be listening, I'm going to run through the summary of this agenda item and then turn it over to Kevin, who will run through the packet that is printed up there for you all that was also sent out with this meeting. There was one typo on the last page that we just corrected within the last hour, but we have included that on the printout that you have up there, the correct page for the last page of the presentation. So if you could just indulge me for a second. So following the direction provided to city staff on November 19th, 2025, the TLBD board meeting, city staff prepared an outline with approximate costs for various enhancements for projects that can be completed in 2026. That's more of an in-depth dive than what we started at your meeting in November. Currently, the TLBD maintenance fund for budget for FY26 includes $75,000 allocated for assessment district rehabilitation in your R&M to infrastructure grounds, GL. Estimated costs for each of the enhancement areas are as follows: Winter Springs Boulevard median and Tuscarora entrance landscaping renovation at $624,800, North Fountain rehab at $176,000, decorative street sign refurbishment at $50,000, small monument landscape renovation at $18,000, and main entrance landscape lighting refit at $19,000. The landscaping enhancement costs were calculated by city staff using material-only quotes from a local supplier that has previously worked on other projects with the city. An additional percentage was added to these material costs to estimate installation costs that would be charged by a qualified landscape contractor. We would point out that formal installation quotes have not yet been obtained by contractors, as preparing formal quotes requires substantial investment of time and resources by potential contractors, and as a matter of common professional courtesy, staff chose not to request formal quotes for a full list of projects that could not realistically be completed in FY26 without clear direction from the board on their priorities. We would also advise the committee that the $624,800 total for the Winter Springs Boulevard medians and Tuscarora monuments has 23 different components, and a variety of combination of various projects could be pursued from this list with the funds that are available for FY26. Given the diverse list of projects and strong community interest in prioritizing specific enhancement opportunities, city staff is seeking direction from the TLBD committee on how to prioritize these enhancement efforts with the funds available for FY26. In order to help facilitate the TLBD committee in providing directions to city staff, we're requesting that the members of the committee be prepared to score each of the 27 projects identified and the accompanying attachments, which you have printed out up there, using the following scoring criteria. A 1 would be that you're not interested in pursuing this enhancement in FY26. A 2 is that you're somewhat interested in pursuing this enhancement project in FY26. And a 3 is that you are very interested in pursuing this enhancement in FY26. After the scoring is complete, we will average each of the members' scores to determine the highest ranking projects from the list provided to the committee. And then following the scoring session, what we would like to do is go ahead and show you where those average scores come out tonight, the total costs for those top 5 highest projects, and then seek additional direction from the board to city staff. And then further, we would request that the committee be prepared to further discuss prioritizing of any remaining projects for future fiscal years at the regular February 18th, 2026 meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, and what we're going to do is he's going to run through each of the individual projects that you have printed out up there, spend 10 to 15 seconds on each slide, give or take, to give you an idea. You can follow along with the printout up there, and then we'll hop into kind of the scoring section of the meeting. So, Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Brian. So, as Brian said, I evaluated every median, every monument, pretty much the necessities that have been we've listened to from the committee for a while, and try to come up with comprehensive pricing to address the issues that are currently out there. So like you said, I just want to run through these pictures and estimates real quick. These are approximate costs, and then we'll, like you said, we'll jump back and see if we can start scoring some of these and seeing where we can, get your suggestion on where to start. So this is of course, this is median 1. This is coming from Tuscarora. And this entire time we're going to be heading east. So from west to east, coming from Tuscaloosa, coming from Tuscaloosa, heading towards 417. So this is median 1. This pricing is to replace that large Sylvester palm that was there originally that died from bronzing, and to restore some of the understory. Median 1's not in terrible condition, but again, there's some understory that definitely needs to be replaced as well. Median 2, as you can tell, there's definitely some old, some depleted material there. Needs to be filled in. Again, this is for understory replacement. There is actually some sod in that as well, not a great deal. That's median 2. Median 3, again, and a lot of these are going to be repetitive as far as what's actually, the issues out there. A lot of it's, the material is just mature. It's grown out, to be kept at such, maintain or, visual levels. So it's depleted in ways. I know a while back we had irrigation issues, then we had a drought, so we lost quite a bit during that time as well. So this is understory refurbishment as well as sod replacement. Median 3.
I'll just point out real quick, median 3 and 4 are lumped together because they're two pretty small medians in between Northern Way and Gary Hillary. So we included those kind of as a joint slide for median 3 and 4, and then each other median after that will be on its own individual slide.
Thanks, Brian. So this will be median 5. I apologize. This is between Gary Hillary and Augusta National. A lot of understory replacement, a lot of sod replacement, and we'd like to replace some of the ligustrums that are in there that are suffering from fungus. They're old. They need to be replaced. As you've noticed, quite a few of them up and down the boulevard that need to. They've pretty much reached end of life at this point. Median 6. This is between Augusta National, Woodleaf, and Arrowhead. Again, understory, sod. Median 7. Median 7's actually in fairly decent shape. We've got some understory that needs to be replaced on median 7. It's a little smaller median than the rest as well. That's why the cost is a lot lower.
Kevin, do those look like new trees?
Those are new trees, actually. Those were installed actually last 25. Those were put in. Median 8. Same understory replacement, sod replacement. This particular median 9 needs quite a bit of work. That's why the anticipated cost is so high on it. A lot of removal, but we have a lot of understory and a lot of sod that needs to be replaced on this median in particular.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Would you say because of these pictures taken at this time of the year that they're not looking as good as they normally would?
Well, so that's why we didn't. So a lot of these pictures aren't from this time of year. They are previous. They're during some are during the summer.
Okay.
Majority of them are during the summer. Yeah, we didn't. I utilized pictures that I have taken over this past spring and summer, and I've utilized those. That way, we didn't fall into the dormant versus non-dormant issue.
Okay.
Median 10, again, a lot of understory, a lot of sod. 11, a lot of sod on 11, and considerable understory as well that needs to be replaced. Median 12, same thing. There's some ligustrums there as well that we want to replace, or that would need, we'd like to get replaced, to bring it back to the, a little fresher look. Median 13, as you could tell, some of these pictures, I mean, we got holes everywhere where stuff has come out. It's been hit by cars, things like that. 14, understory, sod, ligustrum replacements. 15, again. 16. Again, 17, understory and sod. 18, oh, that's right, we're equal. 19. And as we go further back, the prices they start to drop just a little because these medians that are closer to 417 were done. They were redone, should I say, within the past, I think it was probably 5-6 years. Most of those were redone, especially when they put in the lane down, that one turn lane down there. There was a couple of them that were redone at that time. Median 21, just understory. 22, same, just understory, and 23 as well, understory. And then we get into the smaller monuments. The smaller monuments are actually in fairly decent shape. There's not a lot that needs to go in. That 18,000, that's for all, except for the main entrance on Tuscaloosa. That's every monument at Shetland, Shetland and Citrus, and Gator Lane, Seneca, Vista Willa at the entrance there, coming off right there by Speedway. That 18,000 is to redo all of them. And then the lighting at the main entrance was redone. It was redone completely when they did, well, it was patchworked when Brightview re-landscaped that entrance 6 years ago. But it has since aged out. We've replaced fixtures, we've put Band-Aids on things, but to completely have it redone would be approximately 19,000. And then Tuscarora Monument, which is another large, gateway into the community, highly visible. It's definitely aged. As you can see, no color. That center median needs to be brought back down. There's a lot of work that needs to go into that particular monument. Excuse me. And then the decorative street sign and street poles. This price is for redoing all of because they're all peeled. They peeled off at the base, especially where they've been weed eated around or been hit or things like that. This is getting all that repaired and repainted, replaced, etc. And for the fountain, this 176, this is for the north fountain. So as you guys well know, the south fountain was quite the project. Luckily, we were able to get it covered under insurance, majority of it. But to get the same thing done to the north fountain and get it back up to 100% operational, we're looking at about $176,000. That's redoing all the plumbing underneath, updating the pumps, updating all of the, resealing the bricks, having it refinished, and the deck refinished as well. And that's all I have as far as the the anticipated cost. So as you see, as of right now, there's 75,000 in the budget for the assessment district rehab. And you can see the cost below. So that's kind of why we're, having this meeting to see, get direction from the board. So if you have any questions for me before, we kind of start scoring some things or.
Comments? You want to start?
Okay, a couple of questions.
Sure.
What do you, I know this is a hard answer, but what do you think the longevity is of the North Fountain before spending this kind of money on it? Because you did some work on that in relation to when you were working on the South Fountain.
We did, yes, again, they're Band-Aids that were done. Well, except for we did resurface. We resurfaced the North Fountain as well as, we did fix we had a leak in the upper basin, if you will, that was repaired as well. Longevity, if we keep it, which I know a lot of, during these meetings, people have commented on the height of the fountain, and as just for everybody, who's maybe hasn't heard, we've had to throttle that down so we don't blow the piping that's under there, like what happened on the South Fountain. So if we run it like we're running it now, at half to 3/4 throttle, if you will, I don't want to put a number on that. It's I don't want to. That's a hard question to answer.
Degree of confidence. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's. I'm confident we've got. I'm confident this year.
Yeah, make it through this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm confident in that.
Okay. I had another question. Do you feel confident about the cost per pole for how many are there? 125 poles at $400 a piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was actually I had that priced. That was actually
That's just for refurbishing it,
yes, correct. That's for refurbishing the poles,
not replacement or
not
anything?
replacing the poles.
Doesn't
no.
involve the bulbs or anything?
No, these aren't the light poles.
The
These
street
are
poles.
the sign and stop sign, street sign.
Okay,
These are those poles.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. I'll throw something out there. $75,000 this year in our working budget, right?
Correct.
That may go up a little bit next year, depending upon what happens over the summer and next year, right? I mean, just throwing out cost-wise. I think that 75 could definitely grow next year. I mean, if another increase gets passed, we should have more funds in the bucket there to do more things, is what I'm thinking.
It's possible. Obviously, the final budget is in the hands of the commission. So that would require their approval as we develop the budget with your direction. So one of the things we were looking to do with the exercise that we're going to kick off tonight and then potentially continue at the meeting in February is, kind of look at that second tier of projects. Let's call them projects 6 through 10, for example, see what the total cost for that is. And then that would help us at the staff level develop a working budget for FY27 that could potentially be the quote unquote enhancement or project budget.
And the only reason I say that, this is over almost $1 million, right? At $75,000 a year. It's going to
Right.
take quite a long time to get all these projects done. And I understand the ranking, but if we start ranking, our thinking as we see things may change from year to year. Something that we rated number 2
Right.
or 3 may want to pop up to number 1 in fiscal year 27, right?
Yeah, and that's entirely possible. That's up to the board. Obviously, the rankings are a planning tool, but they're not set in stone. If the board feels like there's a change in priorities that you'd like to share it with staff, we're certainly open to that, those suggestions and feedback. But this is just something to give us something to start with for FY26, because we're in January now, so we have approximately 10 months left in the fiscal year, and want to be able to utilize the funds you do have for enhancements that are in line with your wishes. The one thing I would point out in looking at this list of all the different projects that Kevin just ran through, you'll kind of notice outside of the North Fountain Rehab at 176,000, all of the other projects are less than 75,000. So there's so many different combinations of priorities
there
that you
are.
could set
Yeah.
and rank.
Right.
So we would just point that out to the board. Obviously, that's obviously the big ticket item, but everything else on that list, theoretically could be pursued this year. Obviously, depending on how the scores come out, those other projects are feasible. And there's also, I would just share before we get into the scoring session, if we come out after this exercise and, projects 1 through 5 hypothetically total 65,000, the board could provide us direction to potentially look at what project 6 is. Is that something you want to pursue this year? Do you want to take that $10,000 and put it back into fund balance? I know Holly has had some conversations with you all previously about, rebuilding up the fund balance, but really until we see where your priorities are as a board and what those costs are, it's kind of difficult for us to move forward on pursuing any of these, because there's so many different opportunities out there in terms of how these dollars could be applied within the district.
No, I think it's a great start. It's a good starting point, but it would reserve the fact that we may want to change our minds based upon whatever happens, and we don't know what that is yet. The other thing I just wanted to throw out there, we keep mixing the words enhancements and maintenance, right? A lot of this seem to be, no offense, but putting sod where grass is, right? Or replacing a ligustrum that is already there, right? Or fixing some understory to kind of match what's kind of there. To me, that was more in the bucket of the maintenance that we didn't do for many years because the operating cash flows are negative, right? We didn't put a piece of sod there because we couldn't afford a piece of sod to put there. We didn't replace a plant because we held off on that to pay for normal operating. I think we're getting like normal operating maintenance kind of a little mixed up with enhancements, like more color in the islands, more, there's areas of grass that we could almost rip out and put some color back into those medians. That kind of isn't really baked in here, but it's kind of baked in the overall cost of the $1 million project, right? And I think that we got to kind of take two lenses at this. Part of it is maintenance that we never did, and we're trying to fix that up and get that back up to standards. And the other part of this is the enhancements that we're looking for, that the community is looking for. So I just want to have y'all think about that, when we're talking about what do you want to do first, second, and third. I look at the islands, and you're right, they look bare. It looks like some sod is definitely needed. But is there other landscaping options that could be put there instead of the sod at the cost that was kind of popped in there as an estimate, right?
So
Like if I wanted an island of butterfly bushes with beautiful color in there, could I have that?
there are, how do you say it? In the world of maintenance, maintenance cost, turf is easier and less cost to maintain than shrubbery.
Right.
In the world of cost or looks, of course, shrubbery looks better, or, especially native, xeriscape, that kind of stuff. There's definitely options that we can go to instead of sod. This was based on, refurbishing what is there, kind of bringing it back to its former, if you will. But it isn't, I definitely understand what you're saying, where you kind of conflate the maintenance with enhancement, verbiage, but it is enhancing the overall look, in a sense. But, you know, as far as removing sod and putting plants in, your maintenance cost is gonna go up.
Wow.
That's the balance we have to work with. You know, we gotta keep that balance there, because, you know, we have a fixed maintenance cost now with, Nature's Care, with the current contractor. And if we remove a bunch of sod and start, you know, putting in a bunch more, you know, a lot of shrubs, they're gonna, I'm sure that they're gonna come back and say, hey, you know, this wasn't part of the contract, because the maintenance does go up.
Right, I would understand that. But we
Yeah.
also have the homeowners to shell over
No,
more
absolutely.
funds as well. And I'm just
Absolutely.
trying to give homeowners, you know, a bigger, let's get, you know, it back to looking good, but let's make it great, you
Yeah.
know, kind of thing.
Understood.
And they are now paying for it.
Yep.
Versus, you know, us not replacing some sod because we didn't have the funds. So there's kind of two views on this, I think, as we're thinking about future, what do we want it to look like? We have lost a lot of color. I mean, we're very green,
Yeah.
very, very green. And we used to, years ago, if I remember, and I'm sure Cindy can talk to it, we had some color, did we not? Yeah. And some of our islands were nowhere near as bare as they are today. But I think it's, I mean, projects, but I think what we put in these, okay, yeah, keep an open mind, think about that, or it'll adjust them. But let's think about, can it be better than that?
Right.
Right? And then if the island 18, you know, isn't, 18,000 and it happened to be 20, that's something we're going to have to work with within the, and us as well.
I think you would took or 75,000 and just do shrubbery. I don't. I meant in the grand scheme, at the end of it, you know, it would adjust the cost of the maintenance. Not $75,000 worth of shrubbery is going to, you know, adjust the maintenance cost. But definitely, the palette that's out there is very green, as you said, and something we want to some more pop.
I know, is that okay? Yeah, open. Want to state your name, Kurt?
The garden club has come to our board.
Oh, to the mic. Just state your name again when you speak into there.
Kurt Garricky. The garden club has come to our board and asked us for a section and they would maintain them. So they were going to talk to the park district to see if they could do something at Sam Smith Park or something like this, or even a medium they suggested. So I'm just throwing this out, nothing planned now, but they are interested in maybe doing something, and you can incorporate that in to get your color, and they would maintain it.
Well, we're blessed with a landscaper here as well on our board, so I'm sure he's got some wonderful ideas that can help us out as well. But Kurt, does anybody else like to kind of give some other folks here? No, not this time.
The only thing I would say, as far as just keep that in mind, you know, because you do have a palette that's out there, and changing, you know, one median, you know, it might look, you know, but somewhere. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Kind of help in that regard.
Yeah.
I know they'll cost money. Can help in that regard.
Would we start like medium one? That would you know, a little bit.
Hmm.
And the same with the fountains. That's a, would we want to get that fixed first?
I think winds up number one in Brian's analysis as we go through.
Yeah,
You know, we have $75,000 this year. He wants to rank all these projects, right, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
You
that-
want to rank
that-
them all.
so logistical points as we kind of start on this exercise. So what I'm going to do is I'll drive the spreadsheet. Tristan is going to kind of go down the line to the right, starting member Marikey and then member Ziska. Median one, and again, you all, the scoring criteria. A 1 would be a project that you're not interested in pursuing this fiscal year. A 2 is a project that you're somewhat interested in pursuing. And a 3 is a project that you're very interested in pursuing this fiscal year. We'll go through this couple-minute exercise with each of the projects. After the scores are all in, we'll average the scores, or Microsoft Excel will average all of your scores, and then we'll sort them and see which project lowest, and then continue the conversation from the board. So with that, any questions on the process that we're going to do? I'll turn the mic over to Tristan.
I just had two quick
Yeah, sure.
questions. So just kind of understanding here, right? It seems like kind of 75,000 is kind of an annual budget that we're going to be working with. I could see that it may change a little bit from year to year, but just from a mental understanding, it's not going to go from 75,000 to 300,000 next year.
No, but it could go up. It could go up
Okay.
based upon if the commissioner, and Ryan, keep me on track, if commissioners approve us the funds that we were looking for.
Yeah,
We were looking for a bigger pot of funds.
the 75,000
Yeah.
that's in the repair and maintenance to infrastructure and grounds. Obviously, that could change year to year, and it could also change. We'll be optimistic here. If there's other costs that go down for whatever reason, we may. I know, but if they happen to go down, you may be able to free up some of those funds potentially to put into this specific detail within your grounds budget. So, but the 75,000 is what the board has to work with for FY26, and then we'll continue that
Okay,
conversation
so
with
like,
you.
should
all.
we decide that the North Fountain should be doing something for 3 years, and we're waiting to do that project, correct?
Correct. So, but yeah, I mean, at least seeing ranks from a priority standpoint comes in and it's very low, or a very low score from the board, then we at least have an idea that it's not something that you're looking to pursue next year as we develop a budget for FY27. And that conversation is something we can continue
Okay.
at the February meeting.
And then second question, in the areas that we are advocating for plant changes, whether that sod or understory, are we sure that all of the irrigation is properly functioning in those areas? There's no
Yes.
additional issues or money we would have to spend towards that?
There is ongoing cost for irrigation, as you probably know. It's a large 2-wire system.
Yep.
But we're 100% coverage right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been 100% coverage for quite some time. All we pay, all that's being expensed right now is repair and maintenance.
Okay.
I had a couple of thoughts, if I could.
Sure.
There's two at this. One is try and tackle one rather large project, but even if it was the fountain, the North Fountain, not even going to be able to put a dent into what that repair needs. So it kind of takes that out of the equation. If we were to pick 4, maybe 5, 6 islands, you've already used your budget. And I think my perspective is the islands are important, and like Alan said, from Tuscarora Road going eastward, where we have the most impact of how things look, it's going to disappear pretty quick. So
We got to work with what we got, right?
I just wanted to make that point.
Quick question again on the follow-up on the lighting, the entrance lighting. Is it fully functional now? Are there things that are broken on it, or is this really just kind of
It is
upgrading
not
the
fully
entire-
functional at this time. No, there are things that are broken. There's There's some fixtures that are broken that we have, that the city has not replaced as of yet, because we wanted this meeting to or this workshop to happen before we started, putting money out. We wanted that 75,000 to be true, and then we'll move forward after this meeting.
Is there an opportunity for the lighting, instead of the 19,000, that we do half of that, fix the things that are broken, and the other component, we could move towards another project?
There is, and that's what's been done in the past.
Okay.
But yes, that is a possibility if that's the way that the board decides to approach it.
Thank you.
And on the lighting, Kevin, will it have to be changed out if we do the North Fountain rehab in any way? Is it like throwaway work, or it's not
No.
even impacted by it?
No,
Won't be
that's not
Okay.
impacted at all.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Any other questions before we jump in? Okay, so again, I'll turn it over to Tristan. She'll kind of go down the board left to right. I'll plug in the numbers, and then we'll average them up, and I'll share my screen so you guys can all see this, and then we can have a conversation, and we can listen to any direction the board wants to provide based on this exercise that we're going to do tonight. So
Do you want me to have your screen right now, or you want me to go through
we
this
can
right
put it. Well, because they have that printed out up there, so we can put my screen.
Okay. Give us one moment. No, okay. We'll get started. Committee Member Markey?
Can I ask, how do we know how to rank these? Am I just being really out there?
We
By
provided,
how
I
bad
mean.
they look, or?
See, that's why we're turning it over to you, because a lot of people will prioritize these projects different based on, some people would prioritize a project based on, the palm tree that needs to be replaced on median one. Obviously, we've talked at length about the Tuscarora Monument that is in need of some attention. So we can't give you a criteria. That's why you all are up there.
I know, it's rather,
To make decisions tonight, hopefully. But everybody has a different lens that they look through when it comes to prioritization. But we wanted to try and create a equitable process that took a quantitative look at you all being able to provide your opinion, and then we'll show you where those scores come out at. So.
Brian, let me ask you a question. Does it have to be this palm tree at $14,000? Can it be a oak tree or something like that, could be a little less expensive?
Yeah, I mean, so that project was priced at, just as we had talked about previously, Kevin had priced out replacement of the palm that was lost due to the bronzing. No, I mean, this can change. The specific scope can change once we get through the ranking. If that project scores really high, but the board feels like maybe you don't want to put a Sylvester palm back, you'd like to see something else, we certainly are open to that suggestion. But I think we just are looking to rank these, have you all rank these in some form or fashion, so that we can have that more in-depth conversation once we understand where your priorities are at as a board.
You have to go to the, we have to record it.
All right, I'm Linda Freeburn. I don't envy you guys having to rank this the way that it's presented. It's so vague. We looked up the cost of a Sylvester palm, and for like a 15-footer, it's about $1,000. So I don't know how we got to $14,000 for one tree. The lighting at the Tuscarora entrance, I know the transformers are no good, but they're like $400 a piece. So how you get to $49,000 for that project, I don't know. Some of this other stuff, it just looks so vague to me. I don't know how we're arriving at these costs. Scott and I went through it, and I walk Winter Springs Boulevard all the time. And yeah, there are areas that look a little shabby. There's some plants that don't look super great. There are some weed problems. It's not the worst thing I've seen. Could it use some sprucing up? Yeah, would color be nice? Sure. If the garden club needs an extra shovel, I'm in. But this scope of work looks so vague to me. And I guess you're in landscaping. Maybe because I do my own yard work, I'm out of touch, but the cost seems high.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the city also has a process in which they bid this stuff out, right? I mean, it's not like, yeah, I just throwing that out there, because I think you just can't pick up the phone and call somebody and get somebody to plant it. Yeah. Good to know. Thank you, Linda.
Can we do a back and forth?
We have to have it on the,
I'm Scott Freeburn, I'm the other half. Cougar Court. So again, I don't envy your responsibilities to cipher through all this kind of at the last moment. I would think that you would want to, as a team, maybe drive around and kind of look at the worst. These pictures are 6 months old in some cases, see what's happening. The entrance to Tuscarora, I think, was $49,000. I don't see it. Like my wife said, the transformers, they're $400 a piece. You can buy them online. You need 2 of them. You need a decent electrician, maybe a day or two's work, maybe $2 or $3 grand for that. And I know in one of the commission meetings, one of the people that live right behind that monument, she spoke and said, I wanted to go out and put flowers in myself. And they said, no, you can't do it. You're not allowed. Has to be done by the city. So she was frustrated. I don't understand. I mean, maybe there was a better way. Is there 15, down strips down the middle of Winter Springs Boulevard? Maybe we ask for different neighborhoods or different courts. Would you like to adopt one? Would you like to go out and cut the grass and trim it and do it? Make it a kind of a community thing, a pride thing. Just thinking outside of the box. But I looked at these prices and I thought, well, there has to be an RFP or something. Something has to go out to 7 or 8 landscapers who come in and really look at it, because I don't see $600,000 worth of work here. I just don't. That's an exorbitant amount of money for what is being proposed. Again, we went and looked at those, the date palm, the one that's going to be replaced. It's $1,000 out in the Black Hammock. How it got to 17,000, that's a hell of a lot of labor. So before you guys go and pick and choose, maybe you need to go back and find somebody, I know you're in the business, really dig down and see what needs to be done in each of these areas and get a better, more true estimate. Because to me, it's, as a resident, $75,000 isn't going to go anywhere. So anyway, my 2 cents. Thank you.
thank you, appreciate it, Scott.
Kevin, is the prices, does that include the bush and then the labor to get it in the ground?
Yes,
So it's not just the cost of the bushes?
Correct.
Or the sod?
Correct.
That includes the labor?
correct.
Okay.
And
And labor's not cheap.
just to address the Sylvester, so this, I know that Mr. and Mrs. Freeburn spoke of the 15-foot Sylvester they looked at. I'm not sure if that's 15-foot overall or 15-foot CT.
No, and I know trees are, I know they're expensive.
Well, no, but I just wanted to clarify, because a 15-foot overall Sylvester is a very young Sylvester versus a 15-foot CT, clear trunk, is a very old Sylvester because of very slow-growing trees. The difference in the two is tremendous as far as cost is concerned. If you were to look at a 15-foot clear trunk Sylvester versus a 15-foot overall, which is measured from root flare to top of frond or top of crown on a 15-foot overall versus 15-foot from root flare to bottom of the bud, if you will. So
I mean, what do you, 14,000?
that includes,
No,
I'm just saying it includes maintenance of traffic. And that's not just the Palm. That's the Palm. That's some more understory that's in there as well. But there is maintenance of traffic here because they're going to have to shut the road down to put it in with the equipment. So there's an added cost there. You know, they're going to have to detour because it's not a long shutdown, but there is an MOT cost involved in that. There's a few more factors. I understand and again, these are anticipated costs. These costs are inflated somewhat with a contingency for the reason of, you know, and the city's job is to try to, you know, save as much as we can, you know, and you know, choose the right contractor for the job and the right material and this, that, and the other. But yes, some of these costs, I mean, I could definitely see. This is my 32nd year in the industry, I'm well versed in you know, material costs, quantities, installation. I know it is, sticker shock is definitely there. I understand that completely. But there are a lot of factors that go into commercial installation as well. But I do agree with you that the costs do seem absorbent. Yes, they are inflated to a, like I said, there is a contingency in there as well. There's, you know, to cover any overages or whatever that's necessary.
Yeah, and I would just respectfully point out that this committee is not making these decisions on the fly. This information was all presented to the committee last week with the agenda packet. So to the comments that you all haven't had this information before tonight. Obviously, I know, Mr. Ziska, you were recently appointed to the board, so we may give you a little bit more grace, but that was one of the things that we took into consideration was providing you this presentation ahead of time, giving you as much time as possible to review the information and be prepared for tonight's meeting, so.
I sort of kind of follow up with the progression here. As we go through the voting process, we establish maybe the first 5 projects that we want to start with. Are we then going through a formal process of getting quotes on those 5 projects to get more accurate estimates, discuss what is going to be replacing?
Yeah, that would be the next.
Are there alternatives that we?
That would be the next step that we would recommend. But frankly, with 25 different projects, we're not going to call a contractor out there and send them on a wild goose chase for a project list this robust with a $75,000 budget.
Yep.
I mean, at that point, we're just burning good business capital with our partners to have them go out and quote all these projects when frankly, you don't have the budget to pursue all of these realistically in one fiscal year. So we want to see where your priorities are as a board, and then we can have those conversations with potential contractors based on what your priorities are for FY26. And, frankly, to have someone go out and price all of this out now when some of this stuff may not be touched for, until 27, 28, 29, we don't want to, dangle a carrot out there that's realistically not going to be able to be pursued with your available budget for FY26.
So when we're doing the rating, we would go here and say, let's do medium 1, 2, and 3. That would, and then the rest would follow on later on or the next year. Because if you, just 1, 2, and 3, and 4, I think that comes to $52,000 right there, just for those 3 or 4 mediums. And that eats up a lot of that $75,000.
It's going to be gone pretty quick, yeah.
But if I don't know, is that the way we're supposed to vote? Say we want to do medium 1, 2, and 3, or 23 and 22?
I think they're trying to figure out is medium number 1, 2, or 3
Yeah.
the top priority
The top
for
pri-
everybody, or is it painting signs,
Oh,
right?
maybe that, yeah.
Based upon consensus of everybody, right?
And
And then the other thing is, we do medium 1, 2, and 3. We kind of want to design, look at 1, 2, and 3. What is it going to look like? What are we going to
Right.
put in there as we redo it, right?
and then.
Yeah, that's
when
correct.
we
Think
vote-
of, try and help guide you all through this process. Think of each of those median 1, think of it as a candidate. it's a candidate for a potential project. You need to rank it between you're not interested, you're somewhat interested, or you're very interested. Or that's what we're asking you to do. So think of, you have all of these different candidates, you're ranking the candidates, and then we're going to see where the top, group come in at. And, we'll also be able to show you what the costs are for those higher ranking or higher scored projects by the board.
Well, I don't understand why we would jump around and do medium 1 and then go down here and do medium 12. That's not, I think there should be some kind of order, like, again, whether
And
you
certainly
start at
you're
1 or-
entitled to, with your scores, you're able to express your opinion. If that's what you think is the best methodology for a project approach, you're certainly able to score accordingly if that's the methodology that you would prefer. But there may be a board member who has a different methodology
Correct.
based on their observations of the community. So that's why we wanted to create a process that was somewhat equitable to capture the desires of the entire board as a body.
Okay.
I think we have public input from Art. Is that correct? Do I have your name right?
Thank you. Art Gallo, 199 Nandina Terrace. I just wanted to comment to this priority list. I don't think that anybody knows the city and the priorities better than Mr. Maddox sitting right there. So I would ask, from Kevin's perspective, what are his, on that whole list, what are his top 5? And then you can go from there. Thank you.
Well, maybe we'll include Kevin in the scoring.
I would like to ask Kevin a couple of questions too.
What are your top 5?
What are your top 5 priorities? But once these are identified, where there'll be new bids submitted for just those projects, or are we basically living with the numbers that we see in front of us?
No. So once the board has prioritized those, we will then seek bids for the projects that fit within that $75,000 budget.
Just the top 5?
Just, well, whatever fits in the
Sort of.
$75,000.
Yeah,
Sort
could be
of.
3, could be 6.
It could be one.
It could be 65, it could be 62, we don't know. But whatever fits within that $75,000 budget, it could be, like you said, 5, 6, 7, 8 projects. Those will then be shopped, and it could be less than what is written down, and it will not be more than what's on the paper.
Final question. After hearing the public input and so forth, you've had a chance to review all this. What is your take on those numbers?
On the
We're all kind of surprised by them, the cost of,
the cost,
yeah, what is your opinion on that or take on it?
they, again, they are, it's an inflated cost. It's not, I'd say probably between 10 and 15% inflated, over the necessity for the medians. Honestly, I personally went out to each one of these locations. I walked it, I measured them, I've assessed what every single one of them truly needs to be brought back to almost 100%. And these are the numbers that
You put together?
that I put together.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
And let me just add, that's today's cost.
That's
If I don't get
today's-
to a project for 8 years from now, that
Yeah.
number could be different,
Correct.
right?
That's today's cost.
Yeah. Right.
The medians do any of the medians serve any safety hazards, like sight lines, things need to be removed from that standpoint?
There have been certain sightline issues, especially I believe it's Bentley Greens had a couple issues down there where we've had the end caps removed as far as plant material, and we've had to put in different plant material, of course lower, ground covers, things like that, to adjust for those sightline issues.
Do any of the medians here, are they on that list because of safety concerns where they
No.
need changes?
No. No, I believe as of right now, all sightline issues have been addressed.
Well, this isn't easy.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we understand it's not easy, but
not easy.
I mean, we would just point out that, you know, our role as employees are not to make these decisions for you. You all live in the community. These are your assessment dollars that are being spent. You're appointed, obviously, by the commission to represent the residents of the TLBD assessment. So, you know, we can certainly provide some professional guidance and opinion, but when it comes to prioritization within the community and what you all want to see, our job is to execute the direction that you all provide. And without some type of ranking of knowing where your priorities are, it's very difficult to execute a directive that doesn't exist, frankly.
Yeah, it's also hard to think about. It's 75,000, it isn't all that much to get a project done. I mean, it's almost like, yeah, we could probably come to a consensus degree on what's number one fairly quickly. It's what's number, you know, what's going to happen down the road. And maybe number one and number two, you can come up pretty quick, I think. But we'll go through the process that the city wants. At least we have something on paper that says
See where it
we
goes.
took a look at everything, right?
You know, and with savings, you know, that can be, you know, per each project, you know, it comes under this budget, if you will. You know, that those savings will be pushed down, and the other projects that were lower on the list can then get done. But of course, you know,
We may
would
change
like
our
to see-
ranking of it as
Yeah,
well, right?
the board might want to
Yeah, it
pursue
kept-
something different, but the money is still there, is what I mean. You know, it's not, these numbers that are on here are to give, you know, kind of guardrails, you know, say, hey, this is what it is. You know, you guys tell us what you want done first, and then we're gonna pursue that.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Cindy, you want to start? Welcome.
You're going to call out each number.
We couldn't vote silently. We can just, you know, we rank these and hand them to you.
I mean,
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
you
because-
could, I mean, ultimately, your rankings are going to be part of the record anyway.
Right.
I mean, I've seen this exercise, you know, used for other purposes as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, the votes are whether you score them yourself and turn them in, you know, they are what they are, and they're part of the record. So, I mean, we were just trying to look for an efficient process that we could get through tonight.
So one more time. One means least prioritized.
Correct. A 1 would be a project you're not
Number
interested in
3.
pursuing in
Yes,
FY
we want this one
'26.
done right now.
This year.
Yeah.
Okay.
A two is something you're somewhat interested in in being pursued in FY '26, and a 3 is a project
Yeah,
you're
okay.
very interested in pursuing in FY '26. So
Okay.
I'll have Tristan go down the line. She'll call out the project name and then go through the board members left to right, and then back to project 2 all the way down.
Alrighty. We're starting with Winter Springs Boulevard, median 1. Committee Member Markey,
3.
Vice Chairperson Jones.
Did you call my name?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Vice
then there
Chairperson
you-
Jones, sorry.
3.
Chairperson Bavona.
2.
Committee Member Paul.
3.
Committee Member Ziska.
1.
Okay. And just as a reminder, could you please just speak clearly into the mic? Sometimes you gotta lean in a little bit because it is just there a little bit farther away. So we're gonna move on to Winter Springs Boulevard, median 2. Good. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
2.
Ms. Bavona.
2.
Ms. Paul.
See, 2.
And Mr. Ziska.
1.
Sorry, was that too fast? No, you're good. Okay, I just want to make sure. Alrighty, this is median 3 and 4, I apologize, on Winter Springs Boulevard. Ms. Markey,
3.
Mr. Jones,
2.
Ms. Bavona,
1.
Ms. Paul,
3.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 5 of Winter Springs Boulevard. Ms. Markey,
2.
Mr. Jones,
3.
Ms. You good?
1.
Ms. Bavona,
1.
Ms. Paul,
3.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 6. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
2.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 7. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Okay. Median 8. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 9. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
2.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Okay. Median 10. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Okay. Median 11. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
3.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
2.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Okay. Median 12. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 13. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 14. You're good. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
All right, median 15. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 16. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 17. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
2.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 18. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
2.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 18. Sorry, 19. I apologize. You're correct. I even had it up there. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 20. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 21. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
22. Median 22. Ms. Markey.
2.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Median 23.
Almost done.
Ms. Markey.
3.
Mr. Jones.
1.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Okay, and then we're on to the small monuments. This is landscaping for small monuments. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
3.
Ms. Pavona.
1.
Ms. Paul.
1.
Mr. Ziska.
3.
We are on to Winter Springs Boulevard entrance lighting. Ms. Markey.
3.
Mr. Jones.
3.
Ms. Pavona.
3.
Ms. Paul.
3.
Mr. Ziska.
2.
Okay, and the Tuscarora Monument. Tuscarora Monument. Ms. Markey.
1.
Mr. Jones.
3.
Ms. Pavona.
3.
Ms. Paul.
2,
Mr. Ziska.
3.
Decorative street sign poles. Miss Markey,
3,
Mr. Jones,
1.
Miss Bavona,
1.
Miss Paul,
1,
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Fountain maintenance and
Renovation, yeah.
just renovation?
Yeah, from 176.
Okay. Miss Markey,
I don't know. 3,
Mr. Jones,
3.
Miss Bavona,
3.
Miss Paul,
3,
Mr. Ziska.
1.
Okay, now you want me to share your screen?
All right.
Is it okay to just kind of give some clarity on how I came to ranking these?
Yeah, certainly. We can, what I'm going to do is I'll sort the spreadsheet so you can see high to low scores, and then certainly the committee amongst themselves can discuss, their methodology, and, we'll go
I think I'd
from
just like
there.
the public to know how I came to
Yeah, absolutely.
these conclusions as well.
Yeah, that's totally appropriate, and yeah, you're welcome to share your thought process there.
Okay, is now an okay time to do that? Or do you want me to wait?
Sure, yeah, I have to sort this anyway, so
Okay.
if you're more than
So
welcome.
I took this approach as we have a $75,000 budget to work with. I can't assign everything a 3 because ultimately it will never get executed. So for me, the 3s were things that I could fit under that $75,000 budget. If there was something that maybe we were at 70 and I had some wiggle room, my next choice was a 2 to get me over that 75. Everything after that was a 1. Now, with that as my base, I started to look at the scope of the work. And as you're starting to pick and choose some of these projects, you do start to get clashes throughout the landscaping of different plant mixes so that they don't look and feel the same. The aesthetic is not the same from one road to the next. So given the scope of the projects, I immediately scratched off all of the medians. That was the first kind of red line for me. When you're focusing on the monuments as the next step, I was able to do the large one and the small one, so all the monuments could be done at the same time with the same new plant palette, creating a new cohesive look at all the monuments. You can then later revisit the medians of different projects or spend more time with a long-term plan of how these 23 medians start to take shape over the next 10 years. But for me, today was not that time to start jumping into renovating the median. So I focused on the higher traffic, highly visible areas, which are the monuments, moving to the lighting, which then also complements those, and then that exceeded the budgets, leaving the medians and the street signs as ones for me as not viable projects at this time. Thank you.
Do you want us to share my screen? Yeah. So, wow, that's really hard to see. I can try and zoom in as much as I can here to the top of the spreadsheet. This is ranked, this averaged all of your scores. So the higher the number, the better the score. And then we sorted the spreadsheet from there to come up with a ranking. So what you have here are the 5 highest scoring projects. And I'll run through these real quick if you have, if you're having difficulty seeing that. So Winter Springs Boulevard entrance lighting was the highest ranked project from this exercise. North Fountain Rehab, second highest. Winter Springs Boulevard median 1, third highest. Tuscarora Monument, 4th, and then Winter Springs Boulevard median 3 and 4, 5th highest. We'll scroll over to the far right of the table. You can see where the scores are. 2.8 was the highest score for the landscape lighting at Winter Springs Boulevard, and it looks like the last project on the list was medians 3 and 4, got a 2.0, and then the scores fall in line from there. So looking at these numbers, the total sum for these 5 projects identified $281,000. I think we all know where the outlier is, obviously, and that makes up most of that sum. So again, as we shared earlier in the meeting, your available budget for FY26 is $75,000. So we look for direction from the board. Obviously, going through this exercise, we know that the Fountain Rehab scored was the second highest scoring project, but from a feasibility standpoint, the funds are not available in FY26 to pursue that project. So I would look for some direction from the board if you want me to table that or remove it from the top 5.
Yeah, I would remove it from the top 5. the fountain.
Okay.
It's not gonna get done, so
Is there a consensus amongst the?
what does that look like without it?
Sure. I won't remove it from the ranking list, but we can just delete the costs and go back and add it later. So with the 4 remaining projects, you're at 105,000 still with those 4. So if you all would like to, deliberate amongst yourselves and, talk through this ranking and see how you'd like to pursue these projects.
What were the top ones again?
So after removing the North Fountain Rehab,
Right.
you have the landscape lighting at Winter Springs Boulevard at 19,000. The next highest ranking project after the fountain was removed was Median 1 at 14,000. Tuscarora Monument was third at 49,000, and then Winter Springs Boulevard Median 3 and 4 at 23,000.
Take away the,
The Tuscarora Monument, that 49,000, that's not just the lighting and the monument, right? That's that median.
That's the, correct.
Correct.
Median and the wing.
Do we have to,
That's
do we have to make a decision tonight?
Yeah, I want to do this. I like to score. That thing needs to be,
That's not, no, that's the lighting and the,
That's the number one top priority.
That's 2/3 of our budget,
That's,
yeah.
but that's the way it goes.
Hey, unfortunately, we cannot be doing
Oh,
kind of
that's
to
fine.
the crowd,
Sorry.
just because it does have to be on record.
right.
So just want to relay that, just
It's
because
a main
if it goes back and forth, then it gets kind of crazy.
82.
Gotcha.
How do you want this to proceed? Are we allowed to make motions on
Yes,
what we're
absolutely.
deciding?
If you're inclined to make yeah, that absolutely. It's an open conversation. We would prefer that we have some motions actually made tonight so we can have some direction on where we need to head from
Okay.
here.
I'd like some feedback, but I make a motion that we make the Tuscarora Monument a priority.
I'll second that.
Just give Tristan 1 second to get caught up here.
From there.
That's a major entranceway into Tuscarora, and that, to be quite honest with you, has been lacking attention for a very, very long time.
We've been talking about it for
And we've been talking about
several meetings.
in the past, upgrading that. It is a major entrance, right there on 434.
So would this be kind of consider your number one?
This is my number one.
Okay. And I can just do a quick, vote in relation to your motion to prioritizing the Tuscarora Monument first, in relation to this motion. All right, so Chairperson Bavona,
Aye.
Committee Member Paul,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jones,
Aye.
Committee Member Markey,
Aye.
and Committee Member Ziska.
Aye.
The next should be
Okay.
item number 4.
So thank you for that, committee. That helps. That's a good start. So you're down, just going through the exercise, we understand from these top 4 projects, the board has made a motion that Tuscarora is the number one priority from these top 4. Your available budget after that project would be 26,000 remaining. So obviously, looking at the remainder of the list, each of those projects falls under that 26,000 threshold. If someone's inclined to make a motion on any other of those projects, it's certainly your opportunity to do so now.
So the lighting, that was the number one to begin with.
Correct. That did receive the highest numerical score of all the projects at a 2.8 average amongst you all.
So if we did that one.
Anybody else got something?
That's, you got it.
I make a motion that the second project is full replacement of landscape lighting in the main entrance. Anticipated cost of $19,000.
That's the lighting. correct?
Yeah, I'll second
I
that.
second that.
Oh, you, go ahead.
Whatever.
It's fine.
Who wants to claim it?
Oh,
Ellen will take it.
Okay.
All right, Same as before, I will just do a quick roll call. Chairperson Bavona,
Aye.
Committee Member Paul,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jones,
Aye.
Committee Member Markey,
Aye.
and Committee Member Ziska.
Aye.
Now we have 7.
We have 7 left?
Yes.
7 left, we put it in reserves.
That's certainly an option. And again, this is your meeting, it's your money. That is an option if the board wants to provide direction to staff that remaining 7,000 of the 75 go back in with the intent of it being returned to fund balance. That's certainly an option. And again, we're not trying to put our thumb on the scale either way, but you also have projects, just as an example, a smaller project, very poorly scored project, but it's still on the list at $3,800 would be within budget of that 7,000. So we just want to make you aware, if you look further down the spreadsheet, that is there. So again, if anyone's inclined to make a motion, please feel free to do so.
Well, what we should really do is see do we actually spend $49,000 on this, right? Do we actually spend $19,000? We can then reassess after those 2 projects are complete to say, oh, we saved money here, we saved some funds here, we have a $7,000 balance sitting out here this year. Let's see how that looks in July, when we get done with project 1 and 2. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's certainly an approach that you all could take. Again, and I think now that we have some clear direction after going through this exercise, and you have another meeting coming up in February, we're going to be able to come back to you with a little bit more refined project approach. Kevin can get into some specifics on plant species, plant variety, different options that you have, and then we can kind of, as we approach the spring, pursue that. Those projects, especially on the landscaping side. Lighting is a little more cut and dry, but on the landscaping side,
What's the date on that meeting?
You want to make a motion to keep the remainder in reserve?
No, we'll just leave it in the budget.
Keep it in reserve.
Tristan's pulling the date up now.
No, we don't need a motion.
Okay, all right.
Kevin, with the 7,000 that we have left, what if the sprinklers, the irrigation breaks, is that used to get that fixed, or is that in another account? Or
So.
if somebody runs over a tree and we have to.
Yeah,
replace
so there is in the grounds budget for TLBD, there is a irrigation maintenance and repair budget that Kevin has to work with for the year. That being said, to your point, if there's an unexpected expense that the district incurs with some type of major repair, obviously with that $7,000 not being used on these projects, could be used, to do a repair that perhaps wasn't budgeted.
Okay, and the same thing, if we have a hurricane come through and it knocks down a bunch of trees on the Winter Springs Boulevard, is this 7,000 used to pay for that, or is there, again, another budget?
It could be. I think we spoke, I don't have my budget in front of me for 26, but obviously, as we went through this exercise last year, showing the depletion in fund balance of the district year over year, that is something to think about, that, the staff's certainly looking for direction on, if there's the $7,000 left over, if it's the desire of the committee to not touch that unless it's absolutely needed for a priority repair that's not budgeted, that can certainly be, not touched and would go back into the fund balance.
Okay, and the same thing with the fountain. I mean, heaven forbid that one of the pumps blows up and whatever.
Ellen?
Where are we going to get the money to fix that? Is that, again, this $7,000? That's not going to go very far.
There's a budget for fountain repairs that we have throughout the year. And that being said, sometimes those repairs can be extremely costly, especially if there's some type of catastrophic failure. So again, if you all would like to be a little bit more conservative in your approach with that remaining 7,000, that's certainly something that the board should provide direction to staff on.
Kevin, we have our number 1 and number 2 project, right? Right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way you could just for the heck of it, price in maybe a water function for Tuscarora, kind of like maybe what Glen Eagle has in front of theirs. It's a very small,
It's like a
very,
waterfall.
it's like a little waterfall kind of thing. I mean, it is a major entrance to this community.
For Tuscarora?
Tuscarora,
You're
yeah.
wanting to add a water feature?
I mean, just curious, you're
Nowhere
saying
near
no.
7 grand.
Yeah,
Oh, are they really?
Nowhere close to 7,000. 70,000 maybe we're talking.
For a small,
Yes.
that little thing in front of Glen Eagle, is that much?
I would also just say, from a feasibility standpoint, I'm not sure that he would be able to price something like that out in the
Okay,
next
yeah, no, I
30
didn't
days.
realize it's way
Yeah.
out of the range.
It's way out of
Okay,
the
Yeah, we're
all
just-
right, yeah, got it.
I'm going to try my best to have something for the next meeting in
Yeah.
February. So, I mean, that's why I was asking them what the date was, because, I mean, this is a little bit to get together, get a
Yeah, it's
design
a lot to get
together.
together,
and-
yeah.
And then get, and then shop it. So it's gonna take a little bit of time for that to get back in. But as far as adding a water feature,
No, okay.
I
Just
would
a thought.
highly discourage
Yeah,
that.
I know, but it does look it really did look it does look very nice over there.
If we have unlimited budget,
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I just figured it was a pump
Yep.
circling some water around
Yeah.
and be done with that.
Well,
But,
that's
okay,
that's
'cause
what
it's
the
more than
ones
that.
on. That's what
Okay.
the.
It's out of my league, that's fine, I get it. And you'll come up with a design of what that will look like, right?
Correct.
And what kind of plants and kind of look that we're gonna get for.
Absolutely.
To score, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
That's why I was curious about the time frame. So I got a very narrow window, but I think we could squeeze it in.
Well, you
For
could
the-
always
for
throw
the-
a special
for the
meeting
February
on
meeting.
in March if you need to,
Yeah.
early March if
But
you need a little bit more
I'm pretty
time.
confident I can get it done in 4 weeks.
Okay, at least project 2 shouldn't be too bad.
No, that one's no.
Yeah, that should
That
be-
one's kind of cut and dry.
Yeah, that one is. Okay,
I'd like to throw something else out there at you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go
And then
ahead.
we'll be done. A couple of meetings ago, we discussed the fact that there is no street light on the street between Winter Springs Boulevard and Deer Run has no light on it. What's that street
Between
name?
Winter Springs Boulevard and Deer Run.
Gazelle, on Gazelle. Do you remember talking about that?
I do remember. I thought it was just in one little area on a cul-de-sac.
There is no street light between Winter Springs Boulevard and Deer Run that covers that street. So I know we had talked about it, wanted to throw it back at you.
But that's not a feeder street, so that wouldn't be.
It's not a what?
One of the feeder streets into the community, so the decorative pole wouldn't go on Gazelle.
You would still have lighting. Just
Well,
like
that
I
would
live
be
on a
the-
circle street that doesn't connect with anything.
Yeah,
And we have multiple lights on that street.
but wouldn't that be the city, not?
Yeah,
Well,
so.
that's a
That
question
would
for-
be
I can,
city,
if
not-
you don't
Kevin
mind,
or-
I'll jump in here. Committee member Jones, yeah, so we'll get with you after. We kind of need a specific, if it's the entire street or a block of addresses. But to your point, the collector roads within the assessment district
Yeah.
are the ones that have the
The
decorative streetlights. There are some other roads off of those collector roads. Gazelle would be one of them. That have standard streetlights with like the concrete pole and in the kind of traditional gooseneck. So that would be something we can look at through our public works department. It wouldn't be a responsibility of this committee. If there's an area that is lacking lighting on Gazelle, we could look at it and see if there's
Okay.
a
At least-
safety
at least-
concern.
Yeah, somebody's answered it? Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question. One of the decorative poles on Northern Way, and I think it's just past Deer Run, I don't know if it's at Tarpon or Partridge there. There's some kind of big round box that's on top of that light pole, like a pipe coming up. It's almost like they put up a tornado warning thing. It's some giant thing that's on this light pole. And I don't think it has anything to do with the light.
Yeah, it's not a tornado siren, I can tell you that.
I didn't think
So if you could, maybe send us an email, specifics. If you have a picture,
I
we
can
can,
take a picture. I
yeah,
forgot to
certainly
do it
follow up
here.
with you on that.
It's just weird. It's the only one I've seen here in the neighborhood. I don't know what it is.
Any other comments, concerns?
Nope.
We'll open up for public input one more time. We have public input.
Good evening, folks. My name is Tim Lonsberry. I live at 149 Nandina, part of Howell Creek Reserve. I'm the treasurer of the Howell Creek Reserve Homeowners Association. First of all, I commend you guys for what you're trying to do. I'm a volunteer as the treasurer of our HOA, and I know what it takes to do what you're doing. But I do want to share some concerns that I've got, okay? I didn't care much about TLBD until last September when we started talking about the rate increase, okay? I compared the briefing that was given to this committee last May where they talked about requirements for TLBD. And here's some numbers for you. Last year, you were briefed that the requirement was $1,830,000. With the read ahead that came out before tonight, the requirement was $838,000. That's a 54% cut in the requirement, $1 million cut in the requirement for TLBD. Tonight, the slide said it was $878,000. So between the read ahead and what was briefed tonight, we're off by $49,000. Re-landscaping on Winter Springs Boulevard went from $1.1 million to $527,000. Monument renovation dropped from $500,000 to $86,000. The renovation of the Tuscora entrance went from $155,000 to $49,000. Now, I would ask you, what were they talking about doing for you for $155,000 last year, and you guys have just approved $49,000 for this year? The renovation of the west entrance to Winter Springs Boulevard dropped from $225,000 to $19,000 for lighting. The estimate for the North Fountain is still $176,000, and yet when it was discussed last May, the briefer said, well, that's a soft number. They included some additional assumptions that probably weren't valid, and yet that's the same number that we're seeing tonight. Is that 176 number still a valid number? I don't know. Ma'am, you had said on a couple of occasions that a requirement for you guys is to build a reserve fund. There is nothing up here on the slide for any reserve fund, okay? How much is the reserve fund? Where's the money going to come from? The 25% increase that the commission approved last September provided you all with $175,000 worth of additional revenue. And yet you're told tonight you got $75,000 that you could spend on projects. I think you ought to be asking the question, where's the other $100,000? We have, on a number of occasions, suggested to y'all that what you need is a strategic plan. A plan that lays out what your requirements are, and you took a step in that tonight, putting together a prioritized list of requirements. But you need a one-to-end list of priority requirements. You need to identify where your funding is going to come from, and you need to identify a schedule of what you're going to do short-term, mid-term, and long-term. The 2025 numbers, the $1.83 million, I believe, was the numbers that were available to the commission for them to consider as a requirement when they were looking at a 100% request for an increase in your assessment, okay? Now that requirement is somewhere between $838,000 and $850,000. It makes me wonder, are you guys going to go forward and ask for another increase this September? We have 263 homeowners in our association. Those folks have paid in $42,000 in their taxes for the TLBD assessment. There's a lot of interest in our HOA, on our board. Our president is here, Art and I are here, in how this program is being managed, okay? A 25% increase again in September is another, that puts us well over $50,000. So I think you've got a lot more work to do. Again, I commend you what you're doing. I thank you what you're doing, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and I think the first thing you need to do is get that strategic plan. I would ask the city to prepare a strategic plan with courses of action and present it to you all to consider to make decisions, okay? Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. More public input?
Evening, Ian Arkella, 199 Nandina Terrace. And Tim and I understand you have a very difficult job. And we're here because we want you to be successful. We attend the commission meetings like a lot of folks do, and we want to be able to support a budget for the TLBD because we want the neighborhood to look great. We love Winter Springs. Tim and I put together an email that we submitted through the city clerk, which I'd like to leave here for the record, for the minutes, and put a lot of time into that, discussing our military background. We're based on requirements. Whatever the requirements are, that's what we have to shoot for. And we had recommended that we weren't ready to have a special meeting because I put myself in your position. I couldn't make a decision with the data I was presented. What are our requirements? What is my budget? And how much do we have available to spend? And put together in a format that you can now say that. And I said, Kevin knows where the problems are. That's why I was interested in Mr. Matzer having a input to the priorities. And then you could have decided if they were good or not to your expectations. But I don't think, and after listening tonight, that we have enough information that should we need more money, that right now we can support it to the commission. And I really do believe a strategic plan would help, and I'm willing to help in this regard. And we want you to succeed. We just think you need more information to help you succeed. And I don't think we have it yet. I don't want to leave you with a negative because it's a hard job, and I do want to help you get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public input? Okay, with that, we adjourn. Meeting's over. Thank you all. 7 o'clock.